Hello and welcome to Console Shock, and we are at episode 19, I think. Is it 18? I can't even remember. Between 18 and 20. This is quite a few we've got through now. We were supposed to bang this episode out a couple of weeks ago, but we actually had some technical difficulties. I sort of announced on our Facebook page that we were speaking to Oliver Harper again, and we had trouble getting connected on Hangouts, which became quite an annoyance. Ollie, you can testify here.
Well, yes. Hello, everyone. Google Hangouts is an absolute pain in the arse. But yeah, thankfully today we've got it working.
Yes, we had tried a different method and it seems to be working. So yes, it is episode 19, and yeah, you just heard him. It's Oliver Harper. He's back again. He was on a few shows ago. Which was it? Was it the month of February or January?
Must have been, yeah. Maybe a month ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think so. We had a proper little chin wag about them old laser discs, and some movies, I think, and then video games. I think fascinating insight into who ported FIFA 98 to the Saturn. Sort of white knighted it a little bit, didn't we? We were like,
it looks like dog shit. Playable, yeah.
Yeah. Thing. Yeah, so hopefully the people sort of went out, sort of try that out again, which we always the hope when we mention, Laserdisc and games and all that stuff. So yeah, he was kind enough to jump on with us again, and here we are with Ollie. So thank you for coming on the show again, Ollie.
No problem, matey. I look forward to a little rant that's going to happen shortly.
Indeed, yeah. I think that's what we're about, isn't it? Ranting. I think rant about movies. Well, actually, you don't rant about them, do you? You kind of. I don't think you would review something from a movie you genuinely hated, would you?
I don't think I've reviewed a movie I despise, because
you got to want to watch it. I guess.
Well, yeah, you got to spend a whole week or more, editing a video about it, and that's just depressing. So doing an audio commentary is more fun. For
exactly. Movie. Yeah, which you do as well, of course. So yeah, we mentioned it last time, but Oliver has his own channel on YouTube. It's Oliver Harper's Retrospective Reviews. So just pop his name in the old search, and he'll be the first one there. He's pretty much the PewDiePie of movies, I think. I think that's a fair point, Ollie.
I don't think so.
Yeah. We haven't made any Nazi jokes or whatever.
I'm a little bit more serious than him. I don't scream at video games, which I don't think he does anymore, does he? I don't think he plays that many video games now.
I never really got into watching him in the first place, to be honest. I think I watched his Alien Isolation one that he did.
Oh yeah,
and that's it. I don't find his brand of humour that funny. I think his demographic is sort of 13-year-old boys, I think.
Well, most of the biggest YouTubers have a teenage kind of following, so they kind of dominate YouTube because they have more free time than us adults. Yeah. So
have to sort of go and do grown-up things. Exactly. So as you may have guessed, it's just me today and Ollie, of course. Stuart has had to go and do RL stuff. If we were able to do this earlier in the week, he would have been around, but he's not around tonight. But don't worry, he's still alive. We'll be able to get him back on the next show, and we are going to try and get another one on in a couple of weeks. We've got another guest that actually we're hoping to get on. So that's the intros. So let's actually kind of get down to the meat of what we're going to talk about. So I think the first thing I'd like to chat to you about is your new show that you've got on your channel.
Yes,
sort of like a review show, isn't it? Yes.
It's called
Fix It. Pilot. So I guess
we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was kind of an idea we'd been thinking about for a while, to sort of kind of do more reviews on camera instead of it all being kind of audio based kind of podcast, which I did. I think the last one we did maybe was like Rogue One. We did in that kind of audio podcast kind of format, which is kind of fine. I mean, they weren't to say unpopular. It was just like, let's give the audience something more. And I'd always liked Siskel and Ebert, the American kind of critics TV show, and obviously of course BBC film show with Barry Norman. So it was kind of a combination of the two. So you've got the instead of having one person, say with the BBC one, you've only got Barry Norman reviewing the movies. So it's this Lee, but you've got two critics. So I sort of expand that and have me hosting, and then have two other people or one other person discussing a movie with me. So yeah, to bring back the whole kind of talking to camera, showing a clip, and then going into a discussion about the film. And the pilot was the pilot was just a pilot, so there was loads of problems with it, but we kind of, by the first official episode, we kind of got the lighting and the camera work down and the audio sorted, and trying to create a formula for the show. Great. Well, the first video was okay. It's okay. I mean, you could hear everything. It looked fine, but it just wasn't as professional as we wanted. So the next, as the episodes progress, you'll see a kind of increase in quality and things like that. So we can try and throw in more kind of better cameras. We've got what we're using is like two kind of two video cameras and one DSLR camera. So we can try and throw in more DSLRs. So you've got better quality from camera. Camera B and C, whatever. So it's proving popular with the audience. So hopefully, it also depends on the movie you're reviewing. So come say the summer when you've got loads of superhero films, I'm sure most people will be tuning in to hear our thoughts on it. So the next kind of movies we're going to review is Power Rangers and Ghost in the Shell. I've never discussed Power Rangers in any capacity on the channel, so it's going to be interesting because it's a franchise I was a bit late to the game with, because it was Power Rangers came on TV when I was a little bit too old, and I only kind of watched it because of nothing else was on TV in the morning, so you're watching Power Rangers. So but it was actually a Japanese TV show called Super Sentai, wasn't it? And it had been going since the late 70s, I think. And it was just spandexed superheroes. I mean, as a kid, as a kid, you could tell, because it was basically like Saved by the Bell meets this kind of Japanese kind of action show, which you could tell because when you saw the people in the suit, they were all super skinny, and all the actors who you saw, they literally and look like they're 25 playing 15-year-olds. So it was always quite amusing seeing that. But so Ghost in the Shell will be an interesting one as well. I mean, there's a lot of hoo-ha about the kind of whitewashing of the casting. It also depends on what the quality of the film's going to be like, and it looks visually stunning. It does look amazing, but I just hope the story's interesting and it works as a live action. I'm also sort of going to see Power Rangers on Saturday, and much like you, I think I was sort of 11, 12 when that was at its height of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. No, it's not really gone away, is it? It's had multiple incarnations. Yeah, that's right. It was still to the present day, I think. So I was a little bit in that stage of it's for a little kids thing, but it's still kind of young enough to sort of get into it and watch it. I think I also used to watch it on Sky One. That's right. That's why I first saw it. It was on Sky One with DJ Cat. That's right. Yeah. They had episodes of Superboy. They were playing. They were doing reruns of that. I think season 1 had Power Rangers and something else like Turtles or whatever. So I just watched that in the morning. It was great. And you just, because nothing else to do as a kid, you just watch TV, and Power Rangers was on. You watch it, even though it wasn't brilliant. It was just something to watch. Oh, Sky One was amazing in those the early 90s. It had you'd come home from school, and you'd have Star Trek: The Next Generation at 5. And then you'd have it was on every day, which blew my mind. Before I had to wait for BBC Two to let us see it once a week. Once a week, yeah. Yeah, and that was and I was like, oh my god, every day I thought it was gonna head was gonna be explode, being sort of Trekkie at that point. And after that was 2 episodes of The Simpsons, I think, sort of at 6, and then another one at 5:30. Yeah, I think so. Was it Games World? I think Games World. Yeah, I still through that because that was on every day, Monday to Friday. Oh yeah, that was freaking amazing. Again, it was the same company, the Games Master, I think, Hewland International, something like that. Yeah, the same production company. Yeah, but it was totally different. The Games Master, really. Yeah. Yeah, and obviously it's the same with Games Master, because that was obviously once a week, and it was only for a sort of a limited part of the year, wasn't it? It did have sort of seasons. That's right, yeah. I have to wait till October, November for Games Master. Yeah. Really annoying. Yeah. And so I have suddenly you go from that to when my dad sort of got Sky, when it sort of became sort of under sort of 200 quid is when he sort of got it. It was having got
plonked up the old dish, the largest sort of round one, and then it was like to have a video game show on every day. It was freaking amazing, and it was like it was pretty good. It was cheesy as hell when you watch it now. But
I think it was either a Tuesday or a Thursday. You had the show where kids could phone in and they play the game.
Yeah, it was almost like
numbers on their phone. It was like so stupid. It never worked.
Yeah,
never worked. And it's always the kids always lost. So, but you had like Tuesdays with Big Boy Barry, and you had like David Walliams on it playing a character called Leslie. And you had lady from Gladiators on it doing cheats as well.
The
character she was in Gladiator, I can't remember.
Yeah, you had Dave the Games Animal Perry.
That's right.
He wore a bandana for no reason. It was Gary something Mills. Can't remember his name. Something Mills. He's on TalkSport now. He was like the presenter. He knew nothing about games. You could clearly see when he was. But he basically would just sort of do some funny quip. So we've got a game on now. I think it's where you fight people. And Dave Perry would be like, yes, it's a Street Fighter 2. It's the and he'd be the one that would actually add the real facts.
Because I think some of the videators they had, the people who challenged the children to these games, I think some of them have their own YouTube channel. I think at the moment, I'm not sure. I think I was talking to Guru Larry or Larry Bundy. I think he's friends with a couple of them. But,
he was on it, wasn't he? He was on it when he was like 18 or something, wasn't he? Right at the end of
season. What was it? Yeah, I think it was like the later season, wasn't it? Where they kind of it was
like Aztec
vibe. Yeah, by that point I stopped watching it because it was just kind of they'd changed a lot of the formula, I think, and it was
like 98 or something, wasn't it? By then, it was kind of
I don't think they'll get the viewers in anymore. I think they kind of had lower budgets and stuff.
It was on in the morning then as well, wasn't it? Wasn't it like the afternoon or 4 o'clock, or whatever it was?
That's right. Yeah. Times when when you got older, you just weren't up that early anymore to watch it. So.
Like the intro was like a bloke just driving in his car gets kidnapped and then he's forced to play video games and then just dropped off. What was it? What was the point of that? What the aliens? So he just made a guy play some games, and that was it. And like the supreme alien would be like, "Did you like probe him, or did you get any information about culture?" Nah. Just like, what was that? The meeting would be like, "What are kids into? What would be a good intro? Oh, they're like aliens. Oh yeah, let's put it would have been something like that. But it kind of died. I know the Big Boy Barry. Dude, I think he's called Alex Very. He works for Mad Cats or something now. He's like
I recall him working for that company. I'm not sure if he's still there, but that was thing. Yeah, he kind of become this sort of PR guy for the company, I think, or salesman. Like
sells joypads, I guess now, and like all those sort of SCART connectors and stuff. Like, how do you market a SCART connector? It's like we personally chiseled each hole in the.
Well, they're probably not selling them to the Americans because they're all desperate for RGB SCARTs, aren't they? So.
Oh, they bloody love them, yeah. It's like, imagine if like when they come over, they just sort of haul the game collectors, they just hoard stock up on SCART. But no, that were great days. And then I think obviously because that was Analog Sky, so there was a limited amount of channels. So I think the quality was kind of more distilled into the sort of 20 odd that you were limited to, whereas now is like I don't really watch TV to be honest these days. They watch more.
Well, at the time, Sky, were desperate for content, desperate for shows, and they'd pump loads of money into loads of things. So you got just bombarded with loads of different shows that aimed at everyone. And nowadays, there's so many channels. It's just like everyone's fighting for your attention, but it's just most of it is just junk. You could have 100 channels, and you only end up watching like a select few, like maybe 4 or 5. So,
I think in the sort of the early 90s, though, the Sky how they sold it was basically they had X-Files, exclusive rights to Star Trek: The Next Generation, as in new episodes, and The Simpsons and Premier League football. It was those sort of 4 pillars.
Yeah, and wrestling, I suppose.
WWF. That's right. Yeah, WWF wrestling, and that was it. But those were so big at the time. That was like that encompassed all of TV in those days. And obviously there was the movies, but they were kind of an add-on thing. I remember how it kind of affected terrestrial TV because we got. I'm going to go off on we're going to go to the Star Trek tangent now. But I remember we got Star Trek: The Next Generation in 1990. It was like 3. It was already into the 3rd season in America. Yeah. Oh, but that was standard then. It wasn't like we weren't crying saying, "Oh, this is really late." That was how it worked in those days. But then they got to say at 6, I think, on BBC Two, and they got to the end of season 3 cliffhanger where Picard gets turned into a Borg. Sorry, I'll spoil it for everybody that's watching Next Generation for the first time, if there is anybody still around that hasn't seen it yet. And they got to that, and then they said, "Oh, from next week, we're not showing Next Generation. We're going to show the original series." And the reason was because Sky bought the rights.
Oh no, that's pretty shitty, isn't it?
Yeah, so Sky, the BBC had to wait. There was like a 3-year clause, I guess, where they weren't allowed to show an episode. So you didn't get to see what happened in this part 2 of that cliffhanger until.
That's terrible, isn't it? All these kids must be so upset because they'd probably find out through a friend and say, "Oh, you can watch it on Sky TV," and you go back to your parents, "I want Sky." Your dad be like, "No, we're not paying whatever it's £40 a month for it."
I didn't see the second part of that because you could get the videos. The videos came out about 6 months after the episode was shown in America, but they were like £15 a pop, for 2 episodes. Now
it's a joke. You get ripped off all the time with VHS tapes. Even back in the day when I went to record shops, and you buy a CD, and if it wasn't a new CD, it was like a back catalogue CD. They charge you like 16 quid.
Yeah, but then you were like, fair enough. That's like, because I was like,
nowadays you buy a new album for like 8 quid, or you can buy only 3 tracks off it for like 99p, whatever. But back then, you wanted a Faith No More album, and it was like 16.99, and that's like a lot of your pocket money just gone. Gone.
Yeah, it's funny because my dad worked at HMV in Oxford Street. This is in the late 80s, and I was very small. And he literally, we lived in Leicester. That's where I'm from, originally Leicester. And he would commute, obviously, which you can do, from Leicester, so an hour or something directly into London. But he was the DJ on the in-store radio station.
Oh, really?
So yeah, because it was a huge operation. The in-store radio station, it was basically the production value was as big as not literally as big as Radio 1, but the quality would be up there. Have jingles and professionally made and everything. But the good thing was he would get first dibs on videos, and I distinctly remember him getting the first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation on VHS in 1988. Good old CIC video. Yeah, but they're really creepy, like idents they would put with like sound effects, whooshy sort of crap, And yeah, so I think they had a big marketing push. They brought out all the original series, all in bits as well, and around that time. But we brought it home, and I think I was only about 6. I was already vaguely into Star Trek because my dad was watching the original series on BBC Two, because that was when they were repeating, and I got into it from that. But yeah, we brought around the first episode, and we watched it, and we thought it was shit.
They said, didn't they? Because the first 2 seasons or whatever, maybe some of season 3, it's supposed to be absolute rubbish.
Well, I think when you're right. When you get to the end of the second season, the quality does start. Basically, when the Borg appear, basically, literally you can.
It gets better when the Borg appear.
Yeah, which is near the end of the second season.
Yeah, because that's what my friend Richard says. Because I've been doing these Star Trek Generation commentaries. He said, the first couple of seasons of the Generation show is garbage, and it's like a chore to sit through. And that's for me. When I was a kid, watching on the BBC Two in the evenings when it was on, I tried to get into it. I just couldn't because it was it was a bad show. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know it was a bad show. I just kind of just couldn't couldn't follow it or just couldn't get into it. So I was like, turn it over, and that was it. That was the kind of end of it for me with the Generation show till later on. And then I saw the films and sort of tried to get back into some of it, but it didn't win me over. So I kind of always preferred the original crew. So the Shatner one.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was that first episode. We had a tape of that, and then we watched it and thought it was crap. And then, because it's just really bad, quite a poor first episode. And Picard is at the time he was played very straight and wooden by Patrick Stewart. It wasn't until later that he kind of, everybody warmed to him because his character, had some warmth at that point when he had more to do. But it was only like I would get dribs and drabs of like whatever video my dad would buy from the series. I'd get to watch that. It wasn't until it started on BBC Two that I got to watch it week after week. I got into it.
Yeah,
But then getting Sky, it was on every bloody day, and I was like,
get bombarded with it.
Yeah. And I also got Deep Space Nine and like other shows as well, like X-Files. I used to love watching Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, well, the thing with Sky One, because you had X-Files, Unsolved Mysteries, and a show called Sightings, right?
Yeah, like on a Sunday night.
Yeah, I think it was a Sunday night. Yeah, because they'd be like, it would start from like 8 or 9 o'clock.
You could binge it like, all night.
Yeah, I binged it. Yeah, some of the episodes of Unsolved Mysteries or Sightings, and when you're a kid, I found them quite scary. And then I always found the opening theme to X-Files.
Oh, the vibe was creepy as hell, wasn't it? Like,
standing on end when I used to watch it. And if it wasn't like a one where, I don't know, Mulder and Scully weren't as part of the main narrative about, finding these aliens. But when you've got like the monster of the week, where you've got the episode Tombs, or someone's like a freaky person who eats other people, or something like that, or Ghost one, then I scared the crap out of me, man. And then that was a huge. I always watched it out.
Yeah,
it was huge. X-Files. Everyone was obsessed with it for like 4 or 5 years, and it kind of run its course. But I had heard. Well, I watched a few episodes of the new series, and I thought they were pretty good. But they did like 10 episodes maybe of the new.
Yeah, that's what they do now, isn't it? They do these finicky, weird seasons now. Yeah.
I think it's better with 10. I mean, as a if you got like something like Smallville or whatever, and you've got like 22, 23 episodes per season, that's a lot to get through. And most of like maybe 10 of the episodes are usually filler ones. Just ones you can just skip. And that's why.
What series it is, isn't it? Really, because like again, going back to Star Trek for the minute, or even like Quantum Leap or something. You can have self-contained episodes of the definitive beginning, middle, and an end that don't necessarily need to lead on. Whereas like Walking Dead, where it's a really slow build-up, you can't do that over 26 episodes. People would just get bored. People moan already.
Yeah. I've been moaning, to myself and to my girlfriend, saying, "Oh, these last 2 episodes of Walking Dead have just been fillers," and I'm just like, "Come on, get to it, man."
Yeah, we know it's going to be the big Negan, battle.
And it was something that maybe it was something like, "Oh, the battle will kick off and it go to be continued," and you'd be like, "Oh, fuck off!" And what 6 months. But yeah, so it's I don't mind series with 10 episodes or 13 because you can get. It's better that way, I think. But Netflix really kind of pushed all that, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah,
whatever, and it works really well. I like that.
It's kind of the default now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it really stemmed from sort of investors not willing to sort of pump money into TV shows anymore with the financial crisis and all that sort of stuff in the sort of late 2000s. Because before then, I remember like the last Star Trek series, until the new one that's coming out like later on this year. Which is all the hallmarks of it being rubbish, for the sort of people being fired and leaving and all that. But that's another conversation. But yeah, Enterprise, the one with Scott Bakula.
Oh yeah,
that had like 26 episode seasons, and that was like mid 2000s. So it's kind of recent. Yeah, well, there were like mini series, wasn't there? Like all there's always been that. I'm not saying it's just totally new or anything, but yeah, that's kind of the format of it. But yeah, like. Yeah, it was amazing having all that at your fingertips with Sky, and then that was great. I mean, I don't know, there's not really anything on Sky One now, is there? I mean, you got Walking Dead, you got Fox for that.
I barely watch Sky One anymore. It's not even for Simpsons. I don't
watch the Simpsons anymore.
No, I just watch the sort of the Walking Dead, and if it's Netflix, if it's I'm waiting for next season of House of Cards, and. I presume the Punisher will kick off soon, but it's just kind of I mean, I don't like, because now when you've got TV shows like, especially like House of Cards or The Man in the High Castle, you've got the whole season there available for you.
Smash through it.
The idea of waiting a week for the next episode becomes a bit of a chore. I do that with Walking Dead, but I sometimes I often skip a few episodes so I can watch like 3 in one night. Same here. I like doing that because just one episode, I'm like, I want more.
Well, it's like I need more Rick Grimes. I need more Andrew Lincoln. And it's kind of you can't. Yeah, you can only have so much. You can't get enough of like the whole Negan leaning backwards while talking thing that he likes doing. Have you noticed that? He does the leaning backwards thing. But I did that recently actually with in terms of like binging like the new Lethal Weapon series.
Is that any good?
I really liked it. The first episode I thought was a bit shit, but it was kind of good enough to make me. I'll give the next one a go. So I kind of managed to get a bundle. Get the whole of the first season, well, nearly up until the last 2 episodes, which I caught up actually. So I had to wait, for the last 2 episodes when they actually came out. But yeah, it's good. It's obviously, I think you kind of have to like the films or like buddy cop.
Oh sure, yeah, I love all that stuff. It's fine, it's fine. Yeah, because I just had my apprehensions about them doing a series, and some people said it was okay, so I was like, oh okay, well, I might give it a go because they did do a Rush Hour TV show. I remember seeing one episode. I thought it looked a bit cheap, so I was like, I'm not sure about this, and I just kind of forgot about it. So I don't know if that show.
They did a Beverly Hills Cop pilot. They actually made it.
Did they?
It's never been seen. But it's something cheesy, like it's like Axel Foley's nephew or something. It's just like which is but they made it, and it's actually floating around somewhere. I'm not sure you can get it on put it on YouTube. It's like there's also it's funny with that. There's also a Wonder Woman pilot TV.
Yes,
show.
I remember that. Because I remember they had photos. I remember the on-set photos they had of that. I didn't see the
freely available. I haven't watched it, no.
But she had the right outfit and stuff. She looked fine in the part. So maybe they just had they just kind of chickened out and didn't want to do it, or maybe the pilot was a bit rubbish. So I thought, well, we're not going to invest in this because so many shows are made and only a few only picked up. So just one of those things, really.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good actually. She was like, isn't she? She's like some kind of the CEO of some kind of empire when she's sort of being Diana or something.
Right.
Like I think in the new sort of Zack Snyder universe, she's like some kind of like precious sort of like or art dealer, isn't she, or something? Or I think she's
possibly it kind of hints that she's kind of like interested in art and she's a bit of a collector, but it's all a bit wishy-washy in the film in Batman vs Superman what she's doing.
I think she was the best thing in it, to be honest.
It's just a glorified cameo. That was it.
Yeah, it was. I was in the cinema. Everyone cheered.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. Like,
I was impressed by that point anyway. So
yeah, well, I can totally agree with you on that. But when I was watching it, I lived in Stratford in East London, where the big Westfield cinema is. So I saw it. But now with my girlfriend, who's also into like comics and everything, to watch it, and it was all like when actors talk about what it's like to watch a film with an American audience. People yell and like do all that at the screen and all that, and we don't really have that here. Certainly not.
No, we're more reserved, aren't we?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like all the way through. But when she, I mean, everyone has seen that clip from the trailer when she jumps down and she uses her gauntlets to deflect Doomsday's ray face. Everyone just like and all cheered and everything. Like, it didn't at any other point in the film. So
maybe they're quite happy that something's come to liven up this depressing film. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do recall when I saw Transformers 2, which was not a very good film. At the end, the audience applauded. I was like, "Oh my god, what is going on?" It's
funny because the first one, everyone forgets now that the first one is actually good.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first one. It's not brilliant, but it's got moments to it.
Yeah, it's about as good as I mean. I say this about the 1990s Turtles film. It's about the best.
It's the best out of the bad
Turtles film you could make.
With Transformers, with Turtles, yeah. The first one's a fantastic movie, but with Transformers,
it's the best Turtles film you could possibly make. It's a ridiculous premise, And the same with the first Transformers film. I don't think it's as good as the 1986 Transformers. I'm a big Transformers fan, if you didn't realise already. And that's one of my favourite films ever. I think, but it's a bit silly. You couldn't really just get anybody to watch the original '86 one. The Michael Bay ones, you can do that. But I went to I saw the first one in the cinema, and I thought that was actually I had really low expectations. You can't make this into a real thing, like a real like a live action thing. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought, fuck, that was good. And then
I thought it was fun. It was fun. It's got his Michael Bay kind of style to it, which is you know, a required taste, but it wasn't as stupid and noisy and long-winded as the sequels. You know, they're just, you know, some are pushed nearly over 3 hours or nearly 3 hours. It's like, I can't sit through this when you've got barely a story. So I mean, I saw the trailer for the new Transformers 5. Like, what they did one maybe last week. They published a new trailer.
Yeah, it was more stuff.
And it was kind of, it was kind of the one I saw had the stories focusing around a bunch of kids. I was like, this is not for me. So
yeah, I mean, learn from like the original Transformers '86 film when he had an annoying kid in it. Oh, Daniel.
Yeah, that's
I annoyed the balls off me, even I was like 6. I was also a kid, and he annoyed me then.
The thing that drives me mad is because the Transformers are characters, so you can focus on them. You don't need to focus on these human elements.
Yeah, we've got to take basically the games that came out. A War for Cybertron or for Cybertron. There's not a human in sight.
Yeah.
Basically,
I don't understand.
Together.
But the more they do, the more sequels they do, the more human characters are thrown in. I'm like, you don't need these people.
Just rename it humans. With
I mean, you can't, you know, when Transformers end up just being secondary characters, and you know, you like, if you made an Alien or Predator movie, you couldn't have loads of predators because you know you need human characters to sort of have this narrative and a drama to it. So Transformers is totally different. You know, you could have tons of Transformers and they be the characters, and the humans could be in the background or getting stepped on, which would be far more amusing.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I do remember the trailer came out for Revenge of the Fallen. There was that awesome bit when you saw Optimus get punched in the chin.
Oh yeah. It just says a trailer fodder moments where you just get this film's gonna be amazing. Awesome, and it's like, oh, it's fucking garbage. But you know, that's the thing. You know,
the film was bad.
Oh yeah. It's just
went on for way too long. Well, the ending battle went on for like way too long. You could have distilled that into like 10 minutes, and it might have been like, you know, tolerable at that point. and also, Devastator is just a lumbering like kind of twat. Whereas he's a big like beast thing that's not practical as a robot. Whereas the original Devastator is a cool kind of, you know, big huge giant, but he can walk around. He's just a regular kind of robot, which makes more sense.
In the new one, they've got, is it Galvatron in the number 5?
He was in the last one. Yeah, he's basically Megatron, isn't he? He's like reincarnated.
Oh no, well, what's the one? Sorry, what's the one that eats the planets then?
Unicron.
So I'm sure he's in the new one.
Right, Olly, God.
I know it's one of those things. I keep forgetting the names.
They keep shoehorning elements of basically the film. They haven't really taken into account and bits of the comics as well. And I've been waiting for them to do Unicron. They've already done Galvatron now. They've done the Matrix thing, kind of, I think, in the Revenge of the Fallen, haven't they? So they're taking a little chunk. It's fan service, isn't it, really?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So is it Unicron? I think is that what they're hinting at in the?
Well, you can see the trailer of that. Well, there's a planet being destroyed. So
it's kind of absorbing, isn't it? Like, kind of.
I thought that might be Unicron. No. It probably won't be nothing like him. Just be like a giant Hoover in space or something,
or like some gas or something.
Hoovers up stuff and goes. That's the Transformer. You know,
new Michael Bay version. Yeah, it would just be like Vija from which is kind of the same thing, nearly, wasn't it? Except Kirk just had a chat to it.
Well, you could have the Borg. You could have the Borg turn up, and you'd be able to crossover with Star Trek. You know,
I'll imagine that. Well, the funny thing was when it came out, and it went on for too long. And it was rubbish. And I was very disappointed because I had higher expectations. Then I also really like G.I. Joe, the comics and the toy line. And I was expecting that to be far worse than any kind of Transformers film they could make. And Rise of the Cobra was way better than Revenge of the Fallen. It was still cheesy and a bit shit, but in an entertaining sort of 70s Bond way.
Was that the Stephen Summers one, the first one they did?
Yeah.
I never saw that. I saw bits of it while I was working as a projectionist. I thought this looks a bit poo, but I saw it because I read the reviews and they weren't particularly kind. And I saw bits of the second one the other night, about a week or two ago. I saw the last
Retaliation.
I saw the last act or something like that, a big fight at the end, and it was a mess. So I was like, well, I'm not going to waste my time with these. It's a bit like that Battlefield Earth movie they did, whatever it was.
Yeah.
That is it Battlefield Earth? What was it? Was a Battleship.
John Travolta's film, wasn't it? Oh, Battleship, yeah.
Battleship,
Basically,
that was it.
Hasbro, but any kind of Hasbro property, they're trying to pump out bloody.
That was garbage. So it's I'm sure that they're doing other stupid things like the meme movie, and they're doing.
Oh god,
emojis. That was it. Emojis are doing. Yeah, emojis.
And playing the poo emoji in that.
That's right. So they're doing a bunch of other things. I presume they've got in the works. You know, so it's just going to have more and more. I mean, they'll end up doing but they've done a Cluedo film, didn't they, years ago? So I don't know if they're going to do anything else like Buckaroo,
epic
Buckaroo movie
film
or something. You know,
Candy Crush 3, sort of thing. You know, I think that's all that's left really. Angry Birds, that's obviously been done. There was that Need for slightly more legit sort of video game films. There's like they did like Need for Speed is done now, I think, wasn't it? A couple of
that's
Aaron Paul.
That bombed, I think.
Yeah, I think it's because it was everyone's. I think it was like sort of a crap, Too Fast, Too Furious, or Fast and the Furious.
It's basically that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, you could argue that like Need for Speed kind of is older than the Fast and the Furious films, like so. You know, but maybe they should have made a film earlier. They might have been able to get in on that.
Possibly, yeah.
Craving car-based theft heist films. They would have gotten that a bit earlier. Mortal Kombat's still the best one. It's amazing how no one's been able to even get near to it. Maybe
it's generally considered the one that's kind of not terrible on all, you know, in like terms of production, like script and the acting. I mean, it's just a good average movie. I mean, you got Silent Hill, which is a great looking movie, but it's a bit of a lukewarm kind of script, and you know, the film itself is not particularly brilliant, but it does look amazing. And most of them have all kind of been disastrous, you know. So it's because it's one of the things you can't, you know, make a game into a film generally. So you'd have to, you know, I suppose a lot of games are now becoming films essentially with their stories. So, but it depends if that story can translate well to a film without having, because, you know, you'd be taking away all the fun elements of playing the game. You just end up watching. It'd be like, I suppose, watching your friend play a game and you're just having to watch it, you know what I mean, not play it. So it'd be that kind of experience. I don't know. But yeah, I still think they could still do a good Resident Evil movie. They still haven't done one yet after 6.
To do a good film of. And I didn't mind the first one, but I was just like, what is this Alice person? Why isn't it in a mansion? Like, you know, sort of a weird sort of like, you know, sort of high-tech sort of trap-laden thing.
Well, it was trying to combine elements of 1 and 2, I think, really, like the liquors and stuff turning up in the film. But it wasn't. Yeah, you had more of the characters from the game turning up later on, but with no real introduction. They just turn up and go, "Hey, I'm Chris Redfield. Oh, I'm Leon. I'm Barry." It's like, well, who the fuck are these people? You know, as the fans, we know, but there's no background to these characters that why they turn up in the film. So they're just lazy video game movies. Most of them are, you know, well, hopefully they'll do a reboot at some point. But the last movie did hint that Alice may return. I don't know. I hope it's the end of it. But, you know, if this one makes money,
what happened is
I think it did.
Yeah, so Resident Evil Origins, it will be, or something, and it'll be like it'll literally be the first game, like in its entirety. It'll be the first game, which would be cool, I think.
George Romero was going to direct Resident Evil movie a while back, and there was a script written, but I think it was apparently too violent, or, you know, it was kind of going to be an 18-rated kind of movie, or R-rated, as it were. But I think Capcom were a bit, you know, didn't want to go in that direction. So, you know, Paul Anderson, you know, had success with Mortal Kombat, so, you know, they obviously gave him the job, and he kind of wrote this script that was completely different. He wanted it to be kind of he wanted it to be a new adventure, a new kind of video game, essentially. But it was a crap one. So it was just like playing a crap video game.
It's funny because I watched an interview with him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, my all-time favorite film is Aliens." And I was like, "Well, you should watch the making of or something, so you can actually learn how to make, you know, good films." I mean, I actually didn't mind Alien versus Predator, but the Alien films are my all-time favorite film, so I'm kind of a little bit more receptive, I guess. I actually find the second one more enjoyable, even though it's actually actually worse. But
Yeah,
it's kind of
the problem is the sequel, a Requiem. It's like because it's set in a small town, so you know the budget's been cut.
Yeah.
The lighting, the cinematography in it is
Oh,
appalling.
so dark, isn't it? Yeah,
you can't see a fucking thing, which they're doing to
that bit in the
hide.
store at the beginning, you can't see bugger all.
They're doing that to hide a lot of the things, but
Yeah,
it was. I mean, the best thing about it is that the Predator in it is fucking cool, and it's gory, but also really in bad taste when that pregnant lady gets attacked.
the Pred alien gets.
Pred alien, she gives birth. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. You don't. That's just really bad taste. That's something I wouldn't have in a movie. But
they got criticised, didn't they? The first one was because it was so toned down. The blood. We've got to like crank that up to like 1 million.
And they let the directors go crazy with it, and they should have had a bit of restraint in that regard.
Yeah,
but it was a critical pan. That's why we didn't see a third one. But yeah, the first Alien vs Predator is not unwatchable. It's probably better than say Alien Resurrection, but it's just like there's so much more you could have done with it. It has so much potential, and it's got it looks good. The visual effects are pretty good. It's just the human characters. What makes Aliens so good are the actors. The human characters, and they're awful in Alien vs Predator. You just don't care about them. You just want them all to die, and you don't want that because in Aliens you don't. In Aliens, you don't want Michael Biehn to die. You don't want Bill Paxton to die. You don't. Exactly. So in this one, AVP, you don't care about them. So that's why it didn't work.
Such an obvious Ripley kind of esque character, isn't there? That's, obvious. She's so good at. She's climbing a mountain at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who else is going to be? She's already built up to the max. And and then at the end, she's just in the Arctic on her own in like a tank top.
Yeah, you'd be dead
within minutes.
Being frozen, wouldn't you? Hypothermia.
Yeah, and like the alien queen is like a gigantic, like she's about 15 foot tall.
I don't know. It's hard to say if she's bigger than the one we saw in Aliens, but it was. I suppose it was showing us something you hadn't seen before, but it was just ludicrous. But I suppose you've got to remember it's kind of based off the comics, I suppose.
Yeah, the Dark Horse comics.
So the director could argue the fact that he's seeing these kind of ridiculous kind of moments where Predator's fighting a queen, or she's running away from a queen alien, in the Antarctic. Well, it's a comic book. So
I think some of those crossover comics are a bit silly, but some do work, like Batman.
And I've got quite good. I've got a few of the omnibus books of Alien vs Predator, Aliens, and just Predator comics. So the Alien vs Predator ones are really good. Like the first ones they published in I think 88, 89 maybe by Dark Horse.
That's right,
So I've got a bunch of those, and they're really good stories. But yeah, I remember there's a Batman vs Judge Dredd I liked as a kid. Batman vs Predator is very good. I remember being annoyed like Superman vs Predator because I remember flicking through it and the artwork was terrible. So
the cover looks good. The sort of graphic novel.
Yeah, the Superman versus Aliens, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, also you're looking at it and think he'd obviously be able to just kill them all, but it was on a different planet, so he didn't have the yellow sun to.
That's right. Yeah, so he's really weakened, isn't he? And he gets the queen.
Then it kind of shows how he's actually a clever guy. He's actually a clever guy, so he can come up with something to
Exactly, he's super smart.
yeah. And there's the one actually Superman one are really good on is Superman versus the Terminator.
I've not read that.
It sounds obviously cheesy as hell, but it's actually very good.
Is it well drawn though, and like stuff like that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's sort of weird where he gets flung forward. Superman gets flung forward in time after meeting the Connors who are in Metropolis, and the Connors get attacked by Terminators, but loads of them. Superman he can easily destroy one on its own, and maybe even 3 or 4. But he struggles a bit when there's like dozens that suddenly start appearing. And then he kind of gets sort of some time thing happens, and he gets flung into the post-apocalyptic future where he meets Steel, and they teams because he's part of the Resistance in the future, and sort of Superman teams up with and because Superman's powers are greatly reduced because of the the nuclear winter and the sun's not coming through as strongly and all that stuff. So it's good.
I'll have to check that out. Next time I go to a convention, whatever, I'll try and find it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Well, you mean you might actually buy a comic at a Comic Con?
Exactly.
People can do that.
It's getting slimmer and slimmer. You know, these chances.
Funko Pops, isn't it? It's just the Funko Pop thing.
Fucking pop vinyls. I can burn a lot of them.
Walls of them. I don't get it.
I despise them. I despise them. It's the same.
I'm not into super deformed versions of something. I want the one that looks like the thing it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Just
like
save you money and just buy one expensive hot toy. You know what I mean? Of like whatever, Batman or Robocop.
Yeah, the NECA. I'm a big fan of the NECA 18-inch figures. I've got like
I've only got one of those. I've got the Chris Reeve one of that. But I do want the Michael Keaton Batman one because I can't afford the Hot Toys one because they're obviously sold out and worth
they kind of disappear off the face of the earth.
£600 or something stupid. So
I've just brought out Donatello, an 18 as in movie 1990.
Really?
He looks freaking amazing. He looks like literally identical. Completely identical. Like the texture of the skin of like sort of the mottled kind of like sort of like blotches.
You're saying that's a hot toy one or a NECA?
No, it's a NECA one.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper. And I'm not sure if it's available in the UK, but you can get it in the US, and you have to sort of import one over, so it might end up costing you about 120, 130 quid. But he looks amazing. It's one of the best NECA things ever.
Wow. I just googled it. So people listening at home, they look incredible. But
it's one of the best ones.
They're like, they're going for a lot of money already. So,
they're doing
not fair, man.
I've got like a couple of. I mean, I'm quite into those sort of large scale figures, but obviously, being an adult and with quite a limited room, you don't want to sort of like some kind of man turn the place to a man cave. But thankfully, I've got a girlfriend that's into that stuff as well, so I don't have to like you hear
my
these
girlfriend,
sort of.
my girlfriend doesn't mind me buying this stuff, but it's just like it's just space. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I'm running out.
You don't want to go. Yeah, you don't want to go crazy. But yeah, like I saw, like I was in like the Entertainer, which is like I'll probably have one up your way, like a branch of like toy shops. And yes, I go into them because of a 33-year-old, and a 48-inch Darth Vader. And I was like, getting it.
Jesus
so
Christ.
It's literally about 3 foot tall or something. So I bought him. He's my favourite Star Wars character. So I thought, a giant one of him. I couldn't resist it, so he sort of stands next to my door in the corner. It was the only place I could find to put him. I've got the 30-inch Superman as well from Superman Returns.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I remember that. I remember it looked a bit weird, didn't it? It didn't look particularly.
It does. The face is a bit rubbish.
It's
not quite Brandon Routh, but it's kind of it passes like a generic kind of Superman-y looking face, I guess.
It looks like Superman. It'll do,
Yeah, I mean, also I would have wanted like a comic version of that or a Christopher Reeve one. Like you say, you've got that, but I think the people that made it, I think it was Mattel or something. They happened to at the time when Superman Returns came out, they happened to be making Superman toys. I think they made a Man of Steel one as well, which you may have seen.
I've seen a bunch of toys for the more affordable ones, for kids. They're not very good. They don't look at all like Henry Cavill or whatever. And I remember a friend gave me a Superman Returns figure years ago, and it's nothing like Brandon Routh. So you got to spend big bucks to sort of get a decent sculpture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I
remember the game for it. I used to like actually Superman Returns, even though it was kind of boring, but it was the best Superman game that's ever come out, and to this day it still is. The Xbox 360 version. Did you ever play Superman Returns?
Yeah, I played it a bit. My mate Duncan Casey, who pops up on my channel, he had a copy of it and he brought it round, and we played it for a while. It wasn't bad. It wasn't awful. Yeah. I was actually expecting it to be far worse, and it was actually pretty good. And actually, the best Superman games I played was Superman on the GameCube. I think it was Shadow of the Apocalypse.
Based on the cartoon, isn't it?
Yeah, that was really good. There was Superman, the Man of Steel, the Man of Tomorrow for the original Xbox.
Yeah, that was awful.
That wasn't very good. That was really hard, and I'm just like, it looked quite nice graphically.
It was difficult. It looked like lock onto things, wasn't it, and stuff to use your heat vision and all that.
Yeah. And you could.
Which is actually really easy.
best thing is when you fly and you get that big beam of light behind him, or the big blur he creates. You know, that looked quite cool. But it wasn't. I mean, I still have played Superman on the Mega Drive, and that wasn't a particularly well received game. But it was just called Superman: The Man of Steel or whatever. And by Sunsoft, and that was good. I like that.
Yeah, there was another one. There was another one. It was The Death and Return of Superman, which is the Doomsday.
Oh, yeah. I had that on a
beat 'em up.
I had that on a Super Nintendo. I had to wait ages for it from Special Reserve. It was like £55. That was 55 quid for that, and it finally turned up. And I liked it because it was Superman, but I knew it wasn't particularly good, and it was only one player as well, and you got a very long scrolling beat 'em up, you know, and it's only one player, and it's a bit disappointing.
And as you go through the various kind of phases of the actual Death of Superman storyline, isn't it?
That's right.
The cyborg.
I did do a let's play of that. It took me about maybe 2.5 hours, maybe to complete, something like that. Maybe a bit longer. I can't remember.
Bloody hard to get on the Mega Drive. It goes for a lot.
Yeah, it had a smaller print,
over 100 quid. Yeah. It's not quite up there with. I think if you listen to the sort of the previous shows, or with Stu, I was talking about how the rarest Mega Drive game is actually a sports game. It's the Celtics v the something or others. The Blazers v the Celtics in the NBA playoffs is the rarest Mega Drive game ever.
Really?
There's like a few dozen.
Where was it released? Like USA or something?
Whereas there's tons of them in the US. If you look at it, often if you search on eBay, there'll definitely be American ones. You can tell because it's got Genesis. But there was a PAL release. But I think the thing was EA, or the license ran out to sell NBA products in Europe. But they'd already started making the cartridges, so they were like, "Crap, we better withdraw it." So they did. But they never appear on eBay, and when they do, you're probably looking at thousands of pounds. For even one that's missing the instructions. Interesting, pointless fact for you that you can tell. Well, probably no one really, but I'll see
if I can try and find one at a car boot sale and just, you know, hopefully a seller won't know how much it's worth, and I'll just flog it. That'll pay off. That'll pay off some bills for a couple of months, wouldn't it?
I think there's potentially a game chasing series for your YouTube channel in the making there, isn't it? Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, that Superman game. It came out on everything, didn't it? It was in that weird middle phase, wasn't it, where the 360 had just come out, I think, and the previous gen systems were still knocking around. I mean, I've got it now. I've sort of rebought it. I've got the PS2 versions of it, but that one really struggled because obviously it's an open world, but not just where you're running around at street level. So it can kind of only needs to render what's sort of in the field of view, so it can sort of keep about 30 FPS like your Grand Theft Autos. But with Superman, you fly off into the air and it's got to try and render a sea, loads of buildings, like, you know, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it was best to get on the 360, wasn't it? I mean, it was. Yeah, I think some like for example, like King Kong, the Peter Jackson one, it's best to play it on a 360 than say a PS2 or original. It's just one of those kind of, you know, those cross-platform titles, and it's like, you know, when you had a PS2 or original Xbox, it's always best. The general consensus was to just buy the Xbox one because it would probably have a slightly better frame rate, or, you know, resolution, or a few extras bundled with it.
It's flipped a few times, isn't it? That so you've had like the Xbox you get better. The multi-plats would be better on the Xbox than the PS2 because it was a bit more powerful. And then when you went to the 360 and the PS2, it was actually the 360 the multi-plats would look often hugely perform better than the PlayStation 3 version. Although near the end they kind of evened out. But the PS3 was just so difficult to program for, wasn't it, to get the best results out of it?
So I mean, at the end of the day, the programmers would just go, well, we'll just develop it for the 360 and just port it over. PC in general. So.
Yeah, what they would do is the 360 would be the lead platform when they would make it on that first, and then they'll port it to the PS3. But what they'd often do is a lot of those multi-plats are not even HD. They're sort of like, you know, something weird like 630p. In terms of the graphics card, would render an image at that size, and then the PS3, what outputs to the TV, the image will get blown up to 720p or even 1080. And then it'll be on the screen. Whereas then you'll like a lot of the Call of Duties. Eurogamer are really good at this though. If you going back years, they used to do like, you know, face-offs, and often with something like the Call of Duties, the the 360. In fact, the 360 versions often weren't 720p native. There'd be something below that and blown up. And yeah, but I think Grand Theft Auto wasn't HD on the PS3. Grand Theft Auto 4. I think Red Dead Redemption wasn't either. That was.
Well, I'm sure they're probably on in HD, but you're probably saying they're not running at 1080p. Yeah.
Well, the graphics card would render an image at about 530p.
Oh right, I see.
What got output to your TV was blown up by the renderer.
Yeah, I did. I did find there's got a comparison videos quite interesting, but they always kind of generated a lot of hate, didn't they? If you see them on YouTube, there'd be like loads of dislikes and loads of hate. Because it's just like a lot of people are just upset because they're being given an example of one console's probably slightly better than the other, but at the end of the day, it's still the same. It's the same game.
Yeah.
So.
The one argument that people always use, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, back in the day we didn't care about the graphics; it was all about the gameplay, which is a complete bollocks.
It was all about the bit. Yeah, it was all about the bit wars, wasn't it? So
yeah, I'll have arguments with people in the playground about the Super Nintendo could do 256 colors, and all that stuff. Those arguments would have graphic arguments then, and we'd be like, hey, check out Virtua Racing on the Mega Drive. It looks amazing. The graphics are so cool, and you'd buy it. People bought Rise of the Robots because of the bloody graphics. Not because of the.
Luckily, I didn't buy it. I rented it. I was like, right, I'm returning this bloody game. It's awful.
Oh, what did you get it on?
I rented it on the Mega Drive. Yeah. Rise of the Robots, and it got returned the same day.
Did you even get through a day then, or did you just?
Well, no, I completed it. I completed it like within 20 minutes, I think, and
just like the jump kick. Wasn't it? That's all you had to do, basically.
Pretty much, and that little ramming move the robot does. But yeah, it was. I think CVG had pretty much just bummed the game and said, "Oh, it's amazing. It's like 91%, whatever." And okay, right. I'll go rent it then, and it was appalling. So
and you felt so betrayed by a magazine of that sort of stature.
Oh, exactly.
And it wasn't their goal. I think they're they had sort of a couple of golden ages, but they had another golden age sort of in the late 90s. I've still got a few issues.
Yeah, when I was reading the official Sega Saturn magazine in its heyday, and it's kind of like near the end of its kind of run, but it was still actually a pretty popular magazine. I was reading CVG at the same time, so I get Sega Saturn magazine and CVG. The magazines both shared the same offices, so they all the writers got on with each other. So they kind of when it came to a Sega Saturn game being reviewed in CVG, they'd praise it just as much as the official magazine by Sega. Yeah, and but that was great when CVG was doing the PlayStation Saturn and then 64 period. That was it's the best time for me with those.
Talking about Eurogamer. Talk about Eurogamer. That's right. Yeah. So obviously I used to get the Sega Saturn magazine. I used to get it as well. The editor, Rich Leadbetter.
I think Leadbetter or Ledbetter, something like that.
Ledbetter, yeah. He's on Eurogamer now. He does those comparison videos. He's got a company called Digital Foundry, and he sort of invented or helped invent the sort of frame counting and resolution counting and comparison technology. He sort of came up with a way of doing it well. And I think Eurogamer bought his company or integrated them into Eurogamer. That's what he does now. He used to be the Sega Saturn magazine editor, and he brought out quite.
Oh yeah, he was great. I mean, he did did a magazine called Maximum before.
Yeah,
Sega Saturn magazine. That was they had like 7 issues, and it was like one of the best magazines ever. And
the artwork alone. I mean, they would super high resolution, beautiful, tons of screenshots, but like the pages would be filled with copy.
I know, definitely. It was covering things like Neo Geo CD, arcade stuff, import games. I was, couldn't wait for the next issue, and then they stopped it. And I was like, I was gutted, but he'd also got the job on Sega Saturn magazine, and that was, just as well written.
Probably a bit less stress. Yeah. There was an interview, or you can probably look it up if you sort of type it. I think like his name and Maximum or something, but. Yeah, he did an interview with some retro game site where they literally asked him about Maximum, and quite hard to get now. When they pop up on eBay, they tend to go for a fair bit.
I used to have all of them, and I binned them a while back.
Yeah. I had the bloody first one. I had all the way up to the Mario 664 was. I think Wipeout was on the first one. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Others as well. They used to always use the artwork from the game, literally the sort of marketing artwork, which you could argue, some might argue is, oh, that's just lazy, isn't it? But that would look great on its own, wouldn't it, in those days?
Oh yeah.
Whereas CVG would have.
I'm sure there's PDFs of these magazines on somewhere, so you can probably just like download them and just flick through them.
Yeah. For those people that are obviously hearing this and they're like, "What?" Yeah, I think owe it to yourself, I think, to read this stuff, because it's a really good mag. But it's like, I mean, it was Edge, wasn't there, at the same time?
Is Edge still going?
In a bit. Yeah, it still is. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, you can go into a shop right now and get the latest issue of it, and God knows what it's up to now. I remember when that started around '93, and that was a very sort of like, it was a little bit Ponzian up itself and very sort of serious.
It was a bit,
was like that, but more normal.
Yeah, it was a bit like I don't know, Sight and Sound or something like that. Like in terms of like the film magazine compared to a video game magazine. But I remember Edge being the first magazine where I saw video game companies, you know, having adverts for, you know, for job, you know, positions, you know, like be a programmer or work for Sega. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know, you're completely out of your depth, you know, as a teenager trying to apply for these jobs, you know. But CVG was okay. I was always kind of like, I wasn't a particularly huge fan of it. It was just, I think the seriousness to it didn't feel like you could relate to the critics in that, where CVG or something you could, you know.
I think it was almost like they were talking amongst themselves a little bit, wasn't it? And you were kind of just earwigging on it. That was kind of Edge. I'm not sure it's still like that. But yeah, there was another interview with the chap that used to be the editor of that. I forgot his name. I need to think of his name. And yeah, he was also the same chap that used to do Commodore format, which is
Commodore format. I love that magazine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Steve Jarrett. Yeah, that's the name of the guy. Used to be the editor for that. He started that off. Yeah, that went off for ages.
It did, yeah, because I was buying that still in like the 93, 94, something like that, and it was still going. And and the Commodore 64 had really kind of, well, everyone had moved on at that point, but they were still releasing games like Last Ninja 3 or Street Fighter 2, which I bought, which was appalling. It was one of the worst ports ever.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
I remember bloody, you know, getting a magazine and look at the back, and it had like, oh, send this check off to, you know, to US Gold and get the game, and I'd get my parents to write the check, and they'd post it.
About a month, wouldn't you? Then
it'd take ages, and then I got this box full of games, and I was like, wow. But then you take forever to load them, and then you play it and go, oh, it's not very good, because you know you played Street Fighter 2 on your mate's Mega Drive, and you play it on your Commodore 64.
But you'd persist with it because it was like the only probably game you better play for like yonks.
Oh, exactly.
You know, So you would sort of squeeze the little bits of actual gameplay that it had. I mean,
you end up having to use your imagination, don't you, with that sort of thing?
Yeah. I think they did Final Fight as well, I think, for the C64.
Yeah, I never saw that one for the Commodore 64. I never saw the graphics.
It was a shade better. I mean, I got a lot of ports that were pretty dodgy. I mean, the Amiga one was pretty good. That fared okay.
Yeah, it looks the part, but doesn't particularly play that well. As the frame rate's a bit garbage.
Choppy.
Yeah, it's a bit choppy.
Yeah.
But it's always kind of best. The ports really I tended to ignore, and just kind of with the Commodore 64 stuff, it's always the original games for it, such as, you know, Turrican or Last Ninja or trying to think anything else I can think of top of my mind. The movie games I loved as well, like Batman and RoboCop.
They milked the crap out of them, didn't they? And US Gold, yeah.
They did, yeah. I mean, most of they always kind of, they found a formula that worked and kind of repeated it, where you had like, you know, three large levels with 2 like mini puzzle games, and that was it. And they repeated that with Batman and Terminator 2. And I remember I enjoyed Navy SEALs on a Commodore 64. I had the cartridge version. Remember that?
Oh, right, yeah. Pop it in the back of it, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was great. Plug it in, boof, off where you go. There's no pissing loading.
The king of the world.
yeah. So that was good fun. Yeah, there was, you know, those. I mean, because I got the Commodore 64 quite late. I got the Terminator 2 pack. So that was 91, something like that. I got like
it was the Commodore 64C, wasn't it? The sort of later one, yeah.
Yeah, it was white. It's kind of white, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Made it look more like an Amiga, you know.
Yeah. And it was kind of like the Terminator games, like sort of like a bike level, and then like a weird little slide puzzle thing.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I
And
had
then we're
this,
sort of
I had this joystick which had like multiple, like rapid fire. So all you have to do is hold the button down and just push right, and he'd punch really quickly. So when you fight the T-1000, you just destroy him like in
I
a
thought
few
it was really well
seconds.
animated, wasn't it? It was really well animated, like the thing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Glob.
On the Amiga, it looked really nicely animated. On the Commodore 64, yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was it was Terminator 2, so I was like, oh, I'm happy, and I was only like 8 years old, so I didn't really care about if the gameplay was a bit poo, but you know.
Yeah. Well, it was. I think a lot of those sort of '80s sort of Arnie and like any kind of action film, their sort of game didn't fare very well really. The one that I played recently actually was all right. It was a Rambo 3 on the Mega Drive.
That's good. That's a good game.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
it's not awful. I mean, graphically, it's pretty good when you see where he's got to shoot the helicopter.
Yeah, when you're sort of behind view. Yeah,
that's a good. Yeah, that's good. That's not bad. Yeah,
sort of like a top-down sort of thing. Actually, the True Lies game is all right.
True Lies is like that. Yeah, True Lies is a good game. It was pretty long though. I was going to do a let's play on that, and I had to look online and think, how long is this game? Because I see see if I can squeeze it in one afternoon. I was like, oh, it's like 4 hours long. I was like, nah, cannot be bothered. I can't be bothered. I tried doing a Demolition Man let's play on the Mega CD.
Oh, yeah.
And I got kind of near the end, but it became really difficult. And I was like, oh no, I can't do this, because I like to play through it first before I do a let's play, and it's just like I just struggled with it. I was like, nah, I don't think I'll try it again some other time. But yeah, and I tried doing a Judge Dredd one, the one based off the Stallone movie for the Mega Drive, and that was
side scroller, I think.
It was a bit. It plays basically like Demolition Man, where you're kind of running left to right and running up platforms and stuff, and it's nicely animated, but it's really confusing kind of layout to the levels.
It's like a Stallone template they all had to use or something.
Well, it was more like the comics actually. It's got the movie element to it, but it looks more like the comics, and so it's certainly more faithful than the film.
Yeah, it's kind of died now. I mean, actually, I picked up like that sort of genre, video game film, games of films. Like, I think it's still they still get like sort of mobile phone sort of games these days. I mean, Man of Steel got sort of a crappy kind of Android or iOS game. There was no AAA Man of Steel game that came out. No, because
it's too costly, aren't they? That's the problem. I suppose the mobile option, that fee is probably far smaller. But yeah, I do miss seeing these kind of movie-based games, and most of them were a bit shit. Like the Iron Man games are terrible. I quite like the Green Lantern one they did on the 360. I quite like that. But I can't think of any really that has kind of worked that well. I mean, you got Batman Arkham games, but they're not based off movies, but they're based off the comics. But
they're not tied down to a particular style, were they, or a plot? Yeah,
I suppose you could say Alien Isolation, but that's kind of a spin-off of a movie. So
Spider-Man 2 on like the PS2 and the Xbox.
Yeah. That was quite late though. That was quite it was 2002, wasn't it? That game, 2004. So trying to think anything. Anything the last 5 years, I can't think that has actually worked that well. But I suppose as I said earlier, you could say Alien Isolation is part of that. So
probably the best one, I think.
Yeah, one of the best movie games ever, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think I picked up Rambo the video game the other day on the Xbox 360.
You wasted your money on that, did you?
Yeah, it's like a bizarre sort of like it kind of wants to be a light gun game, but obviously there's no light gun, so you're just motioning Rambo around his arm, and you got these terrible like QTE sort of recreations of scenes from just the first 3 films, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, how
much did you pay for that?
I think it was about £4 or something.
Okay,
it's already on the fire sale. It's already at that point.
So I paid £20 for that. I'll be like, well, I'll hang up this call.
You're never speaking again. Says the bloke who got the Commodore 64 in 1991.
Yeah, that's why I blame my parents for that. Because the first thing I ever played, games console wise, anything, was a Nintendo. My friend got the Nintendo pack where you got Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and the clay pigeon shooting one. That was my first video game experience. I was like, I want games. I love this. I want
it now.
And then my parents were like, well, we'll get you something, and they got me a Commodore 64, and I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't know what it was. It was just like a computer. So they probably thought, well, that was the best thing to get me. But if you think about it back in 1990 or 91, and I suppose an NES console was probably about £150, maybe £100, but the games were £50 each or more in the UK.
That's right. Yeah.
So my parents probably thought, well, we're not going to buy this. And then
it was a very strange sort of era, because you had sort of many consoles running simultaneously. You had a handheld version of something. You had the main console that was the sort of current gen, whatever you want to call it, and they would continue supporting. You'd have some of the older consoles would live as long as their successors. Sometimes outlive them.
But that was the thing. I mean, because even though the NES was the first thing I kind of played, but it wasn't really a huge part of my use. It was mostly the Mega Drive. So it's interesting that the NES wasn't that popular over in the UK. It was all, I suppose if you had a games console at that point, you probably had a Master System.
It would have been.
Or if you had an older brother, he'd probably have like an Amiga. That would be it. And after the Commodore 64, I got a Mega Drive. So one Christmas, so that was I was happy. That was it. I got Sonic the Hedgehog, Road Rash 2, and some golf game, which was garbage. But Road Rash 2,
probably Arnold Palmer.
That was amazing.
Arnold Palmer tournament golf.
Possibly. But I remember trading it in. My dad was like, "Oh, I like that game." But he likes golf, but he barely played it. So,
Well, I think the first. I think the Mega Drive was the first. Well, I guess the Atari 2600 really, but the one that sort of kicked off the current trend of consoles being, mainstream and the main way to play games was the Mega Drive.
How Sega marketed the consoles, it was the coolest thing to have.
Yeah, and the Master System was around, but the Mega Drive was mainstream.
Yeah, I mean that's what Sony did with the PlayStation. It made it appeal to teenagers and stuff, and that's what the Mega Drive did. It was like
I think when it comes to Nintendo, also you mentioned that the NES was sort of your first system. That was also my first kind of TV-based system. I had handhelds up before then. I think the Game Boy was the first in the UK, the first popular Nintendo console. The NES wasn't particularly popular. The Game Boy came out, and I all of a sudden remember everybody getting them, including myself.
Yeah, a lot of people I knew had Game Boys, even Game Gears as well, man. I mean, as also
the Game Gear, myself.
They just eat batteries though, so you had to sit in the corner with a power adapter plugged into it, which kind of defeats the point of playing a portable thing. But
all those whacking great big like travel battery things, which was sort of that you plugged into it to save sort of batteries.
It's like plugging like a TV remote on the back of a Game Gear, isn't it?
It's like walking around with a dialysis machine attached to you. Just dragging it along on like wheels.
Game Gear's on life support here. Get out of the way.
But I miss that because I still, when we've talked about this on the podcast before with Stuart. I think there'll be some kind of gaming laptop version of the PS4 and the Xbox at some point. It's a sector of the PC gaming industry that's growing hugely, and they're getting cheaper. Yeah. And I think eventually they'll release one.
What, so for example, there'd be like a PS4 store where you can just download the game to your Mac or PC. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it's gonna. No, well, actually, that is something that might happen. Though, actually, funny enough, they'll make their own branded sort of stores, won't they? And there won't necessarily be a box.
Well, aren't they, with the Xbox One game? So I think you can get Gears of War 4 for your PC, maybe.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and Forza as well.
There you go.
But they've got that new service now, isn't it? Where you can you pay £30 a month or something, and you get access to 100 games, Xbox games, and they're not streamed to you like the PlayStation Now sort of thingy. They're actually, you can download them and they're locally stored. On your system, yeah. That's good. So you could just buy the Xbox and never buy a game, or just put 30 quid on that. And it's kind of like you pay for your Sky or anything. I think that is probably the future. I think that will basically.
I think you're right, man. I think you're right.
Buying a disc, which would be a sad time because I like.
But even though I like physical media, but at the moment, when you buy an Xbox One game, you know, you put the game in, and you spend half time installing it, so you don't really, you only kind of end up needing the disc for it to activate it for the piracy thing. So
exactly, yeah. I mean, that's
so
why
it's a bit annoying, really. I mean, you don't end up just kind of with this disc you're never going to really use, you know, but you have to use it just to put it in the machine to activate the game to make it, you know.
It's like a key, isn't it? Really, like a security key.
That's what it is. Yeah,
very little game data on it these days. I mean, it's like I prefer the game on PC these days, and often you'll get I've mentioned it before, but I've got Metal Gear Solid 5 on a physical disc. I opened up the box and it was just one DVD. So it's clearly not going to have the whole game on it. It's like 50 gigs. It just had the Steam installer. That was it. There was like no game data. Yeah. Yeah. I spent all night downloading bloody Metal Gear Solid 5. But on the other hand, I've got FIFA 17 on PC, and it's hard to get a physical copy of that, but they do exist. You could get them. EA just don't make very many. But that came on 5 DVDs. And it's a football game.
But yeah, that's it, man. If you saw 5 DVDs and you can just download it, buy it off their store and just install it to your computer, you think, well, I'll just do that because I don't really want to own 5 DVDs on trying to install a game. And
it's kind of funny because you could download it, but it would take like a lot longer than what a streaming data off a disc would take. So it's still a good option for me.
I suppose so. Yeah,
fiber optics, amaze balls, like internet, like it would completely be pointless. But it's also,
there's just so many updates for these games. I turned on my Xbox One the other day, and it was like a 20 gigabyte update for this game, and 10 for this game. I'm like, how many updates does this need? It's like you end up having 100 gigabytes for like one game.
And it's also like the backwards compatibility now, isn't it? Because you can play a sort of certain selection of a couple hundred 360 games.
Yeah, he wants me to install them. I was like, no, I'm just wasting storage space. I'm just fire up my 360 and play them on that, which they're already installed on. It's just convenience, I suppose.
Yeah, there's no. It doesn't use it just uses the disc as a security key, and it downloads a copy of the game that's sort of optimized to be emulated by the Xbox One. And it's funny because they're sort of like the reason why they say it's kind of they're releasing these games that are back compatible piecemeal. There's this whole thing now where it's like, oh yeah, so we have to consult the developer first and ask them if it's okay to make it backwards compatible. But then, like, you only got to go back, for 10, 12 years, and the 360 could just play most original Xbox games just off the disc. I don't remember them having to go and consult all these developers and say, is it all right if we can put our game, let people, all the PlayStation 2 or 3 for that matter. I don't know why it's a thing now, apparently.
Yeah, I suppose I suppose you're saying you don't really buy into their excuse.
No, that's actually what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, because I some things on my old Xbox original one, I want to play on my 360, and I couldn't, like the Capcom Classics Collection. But that was great. They made that game, not compatible because they wanted to sell you some of those games on the Xbox Arcade store. So it would defeat the point of letting it, of selling them. So that really annoyed me.
It's got the Street Fighter 2 on it, isn't it? The HD remake.
I know.
Final Fight, yeah.
I fucking love it. But
it's annoying because in other games, go on.
Thankfully, the Street Fighter Anniversary disc that works on a 360 that
does work,
as well. And so thankfully, I've got like a Street Fighter 2 kind of fight pad that came. Well, Street Fighter 4 fight pad. And it works with that. So I was like, right, because using the old Xbox original pad, it's all
terrible D-pad,
garbage, man. So so I can use that. So it makes it easier to play. I can win.
You could spam Hadokens now to your heart's content.
Oh yeah, I can do.
Well, it got better. They
combos.
The later 360 pad that I don't think you have to sort of get either a sort of a super elite Xbox 360 or the or some kind of special edition version. You had the little switch pad thing on there where you could sort of the D-pad, you could flip it to a disc or a plus, and that was a really good D-pad. But that wasn't like the default one. You had to sort of make a point of buying those sort of special edition pads.
That's what I did. Yeah, that's what I bought because they're basically like Sega Saturn pads. They're kind of modelled on that. So I thought, right, I want one of those because the Saturn pad is the best joypad ever. For me,
I think the Saturn is the best sort of old school pad, and then I think the 360 is the best sort of modern era pad.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's actually better than the Xbox One pad. Which is...
the Xbox One pad is just as good, but I think the Xbox One
I don't like the triggers.
pad gives. I think the Xbox One pad gives me a little bit more cramp. I think after an extended period of time.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because you end up. If I played like a game for like 2 hours, my hands like stuck in that position. You know, you put the pad down, you're like, my hands are killing me. So it's yeah, maybe I'm getting arthritis. I don't know.
Maybe you're actually got an actual medical thing going on there. Yeah. I mean, it's also like tends to help. Yeah. And it's like the Xbox One pad. I tend to use it more now because it's the kind of the default PC gaming pad now, and it can connect without an extra dongle because it's got Bluetooth. Right, whereas the 360 pad doesn't have Bluetooth. It's like a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi thingy. So you have to get a little dongle thing for your PC.
Or you just end up buying one that said you had a USB cable. So that's what my friends did. So.
Latency apparently so people can feel that it's less or something if they're sort of playing Street Fighter, or I'm not sure that's true, but they're just trying to be snobby or something. It's like, the 33 millisecond latency is higher on it. It's like, no, it fucking isn't.
they just lost a fight and I can't think of an excuse. That's why.
Yeah, it's like lag, isn't it? Fucking
lag, man. It's dropout. I dropped out of frame there. It's like, no. You fucking lost fair and square. Shut up.
Right. Well, you know what? I think we've gone over an hour, and people are probably bored off their tits. Even though I think we've had a fairly, it's quite a varied talk there. I think we didn't quite cover some of the things we were going to cover, but that's good because we can keep those for next time. If you're willing to come on again after the
sure,
trials and tribulations.
Yeah. I think we end up being classified as Tangent Brothers now because it's
Tangent Brothers.
Go anywhere. Well, I do exactly the same thing with my friend Richard. Just end up talking bollocks about something completely irrelevant. But we've
got to get him on.
Exactly. So
we got to get him on. I think it'd be great if we got us all on.
Of course, I'd be up for it.
Yeah, great. So thanks, Ollie, again for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. So check Ollie's channel out on Oliver Harper's Retrospective Reviews. He's also got your Oliver Harper Let's Play Retro, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Let's Play. Yep. And please subscribe and like all of his stuff. And please subscribe and like ours as well, which is because I think it's all right. I like it.
Sounds good.
You like it? Yeah. Hopefully Stu'll be back next time. He's just avoided going in the doghouse with his girlfriend by not appearing tonight. So hopefully he'll be back with us for the next one. Hopefully in a couple of weeks. We're going to make sure we stick to that. We're going to avoid all technical problems. But thanks again for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.